Hello friends, today for our video we're actually going to be doing a full-on recipe. This is my first one, so don't judge too harshly. Today's we are actually doing a chocolate cake with a little bit of buttercream icing. Kind of, you could say it's a basic recipe, but today's recipe is a little different. I did nab this recipe from Smokey, Steve, and Marc. Marc did give me permission to do this, but I will also be mixing it up a little bit, so it's not 100% the same recipe. He did his with ganache, with a ganache topping, and a lot of other details that we won't be going into today. Instead, we will be doing icing, a piped icing, and maybe a little bit of strawberry as well. I'm doing these for Valentine's Day. In fact, this video might be posted after Valentine's Day, so you can always mix up your decor to make this cake the way you want it. It was originally named Satan's Robe Cake due to how deliciously chocolate it is. Marc renamed it, I believe, a Strike of Midnight Cake because he did it for the New Year's. And again, I'll be doing it for Valentine's Day, like I said. The ingredients you will need are 2/3 a cup of cocoa, 1 cup of hot coffee. You will also need 1/2 cup vegetable oil, 2 cups of sugar, 2 large eggs, 1 cup buttermilk, 2 teaspoons of vanilla, but you can always add just a little bit more for flavor, 1 3/4 cups of flour, all-purpose is fine, and you need 1.5 teaspoons of baking powder, baking soda, and salt. They're already mixed together in this bowl, and 4 ounces of dark chocolate. It needs to be 60% or higher. A lot of the ingredients in this aim more towards the darker bitter side, but you won't notice it that much in the end. So make sure you stick to that. And for our decorations towards the end, you will need some buttercream or buttercream icing, or you could use cream cheese as well, I believe. That would actually does sound really good with cream cheese. I just got the Pillsbury basic pipe icing that you can pipe with. It is a little chill just to give it a harder consistency, so when you pipe with it, you'll get a good shape. I will also be putting some strawberries on mine, so you might need like a handful of strawberries. We will also be doing today's in cupcake form, so you will need a cupcake pan and the cupcake papers that go along with it. So your first step, let's do some prep work. Obviously, you will need to put the cupcake papers in your cupcake pan. This does make 24 cupcakes, so you will need 2 trays of 12. I have already preheated the oven at 350. And you can actually go ahead and just set those aside. Our first step when it comes to actually making the cake will be to take your cocoa powder and mix it together with your warm coffee. And blend. Your cocoa will resist blending with the hot coffee, but just keep it up and it will eventually come together. One tip that Marc stands by when it comes to making any of his recipes, Marc is actually a chef by trade. He only stopped working in the industry just a few months ago, I believe. Is to always, as he calls it, make sure you mix in your, I think he says goodness. I'm going to probably get that so wrong. So I do have some spatulas over here. Everyone calls them a little different. I call them spoonchulas, which I believe is what Preacher Ray calls them, but they're the squishy top to actually mix in your side ingredients as well. And he's definitely right in his recipe. It is kind of hard to mix together, but it is slowly blending it as well. I am also a messy cook, so we'll see where this takes us. I don't have a full-on staff at my side to clean up my things as I go, unfortunately. Artega just left, so any assistance I got. Sable's across the room, but she's just awkwardly staring at me right now. She got in a fight today with another dog, and unfortunately she lost. We raise winners in this family. No participation trophies for us. Okay. And we're pretty close to being well blended. Don't know if you can see that from here. And let's go on to our next step, shall we? Okay, for our next step, we are actually going to cream our sugar and vegetable oil, and right after add the eggs. For this step, it's probably best that you use a stand mixer. I actually just got this recently, so I've always did everything by hand, so I kind of say it works that way, and you can do it that method, in my opinion. Now, I'm sure there's chefs and whatnot who would disagree with that, but you work with what you got. And unfortunately, this one is also very small, so we'll see how that works. And also, make sure you lock it into place. Like I said, it's new. I don't know exactly what I'm doing. And vegetable oil. And I am going to go ahead and mix this, and I will jump cut to adding the eggs. I don't like hearing this loud sound constantly in videos, so it's kind of my little, we'll jump forward in time. As soon as I figure out how to work it. See you soon. As you can see, I'm slowly actually getting this off the sides, just like we mentioned earlier. And I'm going to go ahead and add the eggs. I am the worst person at breaking eggs, so watch me get half the shell in there. Now do make sure, as you mix eggs, make sure you try and break them. Break the yolks of them. So I use just the back of the spatula, poke them a little bit, break them up. Sometimes, even when you're mixing, there's no sharp edges on the mixer, so sometimes they won't get blended in. And here we go again. I don't know if you'll actually be able to see this, but as you can tell, it is perfectly mixed. It's very smooth. And trust me, you will be able to tell that because working with sugar, it was very gritty for quite some time. But that grittiness is basically all out of it at this point. Make sure to put that back on there. And we'll move on to our next step. On to your next step. We're actually going to add our coffee cocoa mixture and our buttermilk to our sugary vegetable oil mixture. Now, I should have said this earlier, but if you are somebody who doesn't like coffee, you don't need to worry. This will not come out tasting like coffee. The coffee actually enhances the cocoa flavor, so don't be worried there. Now, when you add this, you are going to add a little bit at a time, one after the other. So a little bit of cocoa coffee, a little bit of milk. A little bit of cocoa coffee, a little bit of milk, and do that until everything is mixed together. Now we are all done adding our cocoa and our buttermilk. I can set those aside. I can't flip this one over because it is very liquidy, and as you go through this recipe, this is a more liquidy recipe, so don't let that make you nervous. Now let's head on to our next step, shall we? Next up, we are going to mix our dry ingredients. You're going to want a large bowl with your flour, your 60% cocoa, which you can do it, if you get it in finely ground and broken down, that's great. This is Ghirardelli's, I believe. But if you can't get it ground down, because you don't have the equipment for it, which I do not, I just use a knife and cut it into very small pieces. I'll be honest with you, I'm hoping it melts a little bit inside the cake. But even if it's large clumps, who cares? It's chocolate, we love it. And you also need your baking soda, baking powder, and your salt. And you can mix this by hand. This is not like the end of the world if you don't have two stand mixers. I mean, the average good cook does not. You just go ahead and blend them together until well mixed. Now on to our next step. We are actually going to mix together our dry and wet ingredients, and believe it or not, we are going to mix it together all at one time. Now I'm going to attempt to do that, but my bowl is pretty small on my mixer, so may not be able to do that. So we will see, but make sure you do add it all one time. That is advice Marc gave, and we're following Marc right now like gospel because as you know, I am not a cooker or baker by any definition of the word, which probably gives you tons of faith in me right now. And then you are just going to mix together. As you mix, you are going to add in your vanilla. It is supposed to be in a measurement I don't remember at all. Now you're going to add in your vanilla as you mix. It calls for 2 teaspoons. I'm not good at gauging, but I also know a little vanilla is a little better, right? It kind of works like salt. It helps bring out the natural flavors within a cake. I definitely probably went overboard there. Don't add so much your cake is even extra runny, but it's all good. So hopefully, I guess we'll see in the end, won't we? Now that everything is mixed together, we are going to actually put our batter into our cupcake tins. I have one of these. Well, really, I don't know why. It's rubber, which I think helps get things out easier, but when it's a cupcake pan, I don't know if that really matters all that much. But if you are wanting even cupcakes, use, I think, an ice cream scoop or a cookie scoop. And that'll get even batter in each, so they'll all come out looking the same size. Unfortunately, this is the only tray I have, but like I said, it'll make 24 cupcakes. I only have 12, so it's going to take my bake time a little bit longer. I want to say this will be about 1 to 2 scoops per cupcake. I'll definitely add the right measurements into the video once I'm 100% sure of that. That way it's not a guessing game. And you are going to stick them in the oven and bake them at 350 for 30 to 35 minutes, or until you put a toothpick inside and it comes out clean. So I'm going to continue this up here, and I will see you after the baking process for the fun part, decorating. Hello guys, we are back from baking our cupcakes. I have some of them on the counter here for you because I'm going to show you how to icing some of them in 2 different techniques. But I did want to give you a heads up. I said I would let you know how many scoops go into each cupcake container. 2 to 2.5 scoops. If you do more than that, it will bubble over. I did have that happen. You can see the example of it right here. If you can see that from here, the edges got torn off. And that is really because this is a very, very soft batter. When you take it out of the oven, it's still going to look relatively wet, so you do want to try to do the toothpick test down the center of each cupcake because it does still look a little wet. And then once you take it out, wait for it to cool before you release it from the pans, especially if it's touching the exterior, or you will have this happen. I actually had a few of them hit the table upside down, and when I pulled them back up, immediately it tore off the cupcake. So it's a very delicate sponge. And let's go ahead and I'll show you how to icing them. As you can see, I've already prepped my icing here. One thing I will say is that I took that basic icing I showed you earlier and added about half a cup of powdered sugar just to thicken it up a little bit. Now I'm going to show you how to do 2 different icing techniques. The first one is just going to be with our white icing and a 1M Wilton's cake tip. You're going to start from the middle, very basic, add pressure and just work your way around. It's a very basic rosette. And remove off. And that is your first cupcake. Simple, easy to do. For the next cupcake, we are going to use our pink strawberry icing. I went ahead just like the last one and added some powdered sugar, but for this one I did 1 cup because it seemed to be a little bit more fluid than our white that we used earlier. I'm also using a Wilton's 366 tip, and we're going to create a sort of almost a sunflower-like pattern on this one. Okay, I just want to talk to you about the tip quickly before we icing this one. We are using a 366 Wilton, and I want you to pay attention to this tip has 2 different points, and that is what's going to be sitting against the cupcake. We're not doing this, we're doing this, okay? You're going to start in the center, you're going to apply pressure, and then lose it as you come outward. Do not go completely towards the center, and I'm pulling out. Stop applying pressure and let it go. Apply pressure, pull it out, let it go. Apply pressure, let it go. Once again, apply pressure, let it go. We're going to do a second layer to fill in the gaps that are empty here. And to finish this shape off, we are simply going to top it with strawberry. Push down a little bit so the icing spreads out a little bit, and there you go. And those are our cupcakes for today. We have the little rosette and this sunflower looking one with the strawberry on top. And it tastes delicious. Ortega already tried it. The chocolate is a little more bitter than your usual chocolate, but I think that is definitely going to be evened out with the sugar on top and the icing. I hope you liked this recipe today. And a big shout out to Marc and Smokey, Steve and Marc. I'll link their recipe to this in the channel. Obviously watch theirs if you want to do more of a ganache icing on top. And if you like this, make sure you like and subscribe to the channel and follow me on Facebook and Twitter. And I'll see you next time, guys. Bye.